Alexandre Pantoja is all set to defend his flyweight belt against the young gun Joshua Van at UFC 323. Alexandre Pantoja is motivated to prove himself against a rising star at UFC 323. He feels grateful to still compete at a high level as a veteran and sees the fight as a chance to measure himself against the new generation. Pantoja emphasizes that December 6th will be a defining moment to show his skill, progress, and position in the division, and he's training seriously to see how he stacks up moving forward.
And I feel amazing because I'm still here, you know. I'm considered like an old school fighter, and I have a chance to face off one of the best this new generation, you know. And I have a chance to prove that fight, December 6th, gonna prove a lot for me, you know. How my level is still competitive, and that fight I'm training very hard. I take it very serious, Joshua Van. And I want to see myself, how I go, and my future in that division, you know. That's what I want to make December 6th.
Joshua Van also explains why he considers Alexandre Pantoja the flyweight GOAT over Demetrious Johnson. He notes that he began watching the UFC in 2017 and missed most of Johnson's career. Van says he only started following the division when Pantoja won the belt, marking the beginning of his UFC journey.
Just because I know people are going to bring it up, you called Pantoja the GOAT at flyweight, and people are obviously going to kind of clip that and say, oh, what about DJ? Some people think he's the greatest fighter in any weight class. So I guess, why do you consider Pantoja the GOAT over Demetrious Johnson?
Well, I started watching UFC fight after 2017, so like I don't really see Demetrious Johnson fight. So you know what I mean. All I see is Pantoja, and you know what I mean. When he got the belt, that was when I made my debut and things like that. So, you know, I was kind of used to seeing him at the top. So, you know, that's why I say he's the greatest of all time.
Meanwhile, Demetrious Johnson previews the co-main event between Alex Pantoja and Joshua Van as an absolute thriller. Pantoja dominates the flyweight division, defeating everyone in his path. Joshua Van impresses with explosive, fan-friendly striking and knockout power.
Co-main event, Alex Pantoja taking on Joshua Van. Now, this fight is going to be an absolute banger. Reason why is because Alex Pantoja has been on an absolute tear. He is the king of the flyweight division. He has beaten everybody they put in front of him. On the flip side, when you look at Joshua Van, he has impressed me. A kid who's come into mixed martial arts, knocking people out, fan-friendly style, going out there, letting his hands blister, you know, his opponents up. He's got great knockout power. Yeah, the kid has just been on an absolute tear, beating people. His only defeat inside of the octagon is from Johnson.
Demetrious Johnson thinks Joshua Van is in a win-win situation here and frames this matchup as old guard versus new guard, highlighting the 35-year-old Pantoja against the 24-year-old Van. He sees a nothing-to-lose scenario for Van. A victory crowns him champion, while a loss doesn't hurt since he's still young with plenty of time to grow. Age and experience favor Pantoja now, but Van's future remains bright regardless of the outcome.
This fight between Alex Pantoja and Joshua Van, it is an old guard taking on the young guard. The biggest gap in this fight is the age difference. Alex Pantoja 35, where Joshua Van is 24. 24 getting a title shot at a very young age. How do I feel about a 24-year-old getting a title shot? You know what? It's a win-win situation for Joshua Van. Here's the reason why. If he beats Alex Pantoja, he is king ding-a-ling. He beat the champion. He beat people. He beat somebody who can never be beaten, right? But if he loses to Alex Pantoja, it's still a win because he's 24 years old. He's still young. You gave him another 10 years of fighting, Pantoja will be 45, my Black House will be 49, and he will be 34 years old. He will still be younger than Alex Pantoja in this fight, and that's why I see it a win-win situation. He has nothing to lose.
However, Joshua Van doesn't like the old versus new narrative. He explains that it undervalues Pantoja, who he considers one of the greatest in the division. Van feels the focus should be on respecting Pantoja's achievements rather than framing it as a simple rising talent versus veteran story.
A few of your interviews where people are bringing up this old versus new like narrative, and you don't seem to like that. Like, Like, I see you shaking your head right now. So what is it about that narrative that kind of bugs you?
Because, you know, we got to give credit to PANTOJA, man. You know, he's the greatest of all time in my eyes, you know, in our division. So this is what the up-and-coming versus the great.
The Mighty Mouse picks Alex Pantoja to win, expecting him to control the fight by closing the distance, taking Joshua Van down, and working toward a submission. He notes Pantoja has successfully done this against tough strikers before and sees no reason he can't do it again. While Van has the skills and determination to challenge him, Muse believes Pantoja's grappling and control will make the difference.
Who do I have winning between these two fights? I'm gonna go with the king, Alex Pantoja. I think Alex Pantoja is gonna go out there, cross the void, take him down, take his back and submit him. He's been able to do it to some very dangerous strikers like Kai Asakura and a lot of athletes under the banner. So I don't see why he can't do this to Joshua Van. Now, I'm not saying Joshua Van can't win this fight. I think Joshua Van has the talent and the spirit to do it, but it's a different ballgame when you get in there with someone like Alex Pantoja and he gets his hands around you, gets your back, body triangle. Now you're doing this the whole fucking round, and then until he sinks it in. So I'm gonna go with Alex Pantoja.
Max Holloway views Pantoja as a champion on a serious run, heading into a 5th title defense after steamrolling the division. He describes Pantoja as a wrecking ball while noting that Joshua Van is a hungry young contender pushing hard for the top. Many compare Van's high-volume style to Max's own with added knockout power. Holloway sees Pantoja's love for firefights and Van's willingness to bite down and trade, and expects the matchup to turn into a wild fight of the night type battle.
The champion is what he's champion. He's going for, what is this, his 5th title defense? What an animal, bro. And this title defenses has been like just dominant title defenses. He's looking like a freaking wrecking ball in this division. It's kind of crazy, but he got a young guy gunning for the top against across him, Joshua Van. I hear the comparisons. A lot of people say Joshua Van fights like me. He likes peppering big. I think he got some KO power though. I don't know what you guys talking about. I think, you know, Pantoja, he likes a firefight, bro. He doesn't shy away from a fight. And you know, I think Joshua Van is gonna bring it. I think this has fight of the night written all over it.
Max Holloway believes Pantoja's championship experience will give him a major edge. He expects Pantoja to start by trading strikes with Joshua Van, possibly taking some shots early, then shift to his grappling. Using his strong base, Pantoja can control the fight on the ground, maintain top position, and even look for a submission to secure victory.
I think with Pantoja having all the championship, just the championship experience, is gonna help him a lot here in this game. I don't know too much about Joshua's grappling. I'm thinking Pantoja is gonna probably try to bang with Joshua. Might get hit like in the first 2 rounds. Might get touched a little bit, and then he's gonna go to his grappling. And I think so. That's where Pantoja can win this fight. I think so. He maintains a great grappling. He has a great grappling base. He takes him down. He maintains the top, and you know, he might get a submission.
Max highlights Pantoja as a clear favorite due to his dominant reign. He expects Pantoja to rely heavily on grappling, and if he gets Joshua Van to the ground, Pantoja becomes extremely dangerous. His MMA jiu-jitsu combines control with constant offense, looking for submissions, striking opportunities, and damage in every position rather than just holding his opponent.
The odds is all right. You know, you gotta favor Pantoja. Just a dominant champion, been holding it down. And I think this fight be super excited to the point to where Pantoja is going to be like, look, I'm just going to grapple this guy, and you know, and if he does get him on the ground, Pantoja's a problem on the ground, and you know, Joshua is just going to have to be smart and not get caught in sticky situations. But Pantoja, watching his jiu-jitsu is just sick. His MMA jiu-jitsu is not only jiu-jitsu. When he gets you down, he just doesn't hold. He pounds you. He looks for openings. He looks for finishes. So it's not one of the, like, he's not just holding you. He's trying to finish you. He's looking for submissions, looking for striking. He's peppering you.
Former UFC champion Jamahal Hill thinks the fight comes down to whether Joshua Van can avoid being grounded. If Pantoja gets him down, Hill sees it clearly going Pantoja's way. But if Van can keep the fight on the feet, Hill thinks it becomes a genuinely competitive matchup. He likes Van's chances in a striking battle, though he notes that staying upright against Pantoja is a difficult task, and Pantoja carries real power power as well.
It's interesting. It's all going to depend on if can Josh stay off his back. If Pantoja can put him down, Pantoja all day. But if Josh can stay on his feet, we got a good fight. We got a really good fight. Yeah, you know what I mean? I like Josh's chances if he can keep it standing. You know what I mean? But that's a tough task. And plus, Pantoja can crack too.
Luke Thomas breaks down Joshua Van's challenge in the co-main event. He highlights that Van faces one of the best flyweights ever, a relentless submission and position hunter who's always hunting for a finish. Van stands out for his boxing and pocket work, but he also absorbs a lot of strikes, willingly trading throughout the fight. Despite taking hits, Van consistently lands the cleaner shots, making him a tough and exciting matchup.
Here's the fun part about Van. He's going up against, as I mentioned, the second best flyweight of all time, who is a absolute submission and position hunter, never a staller. This guy is always looking for the kill. And Josh Van, by the way, what's interesting about him is not just the story that I mentioned before and how well his boxing looks and sitting in the pocket and everything else, but dude, he's not hard to hit. He gets hit a lot. Like, he's in the mix in these fights. He just tends to be the guy who does the cleaner work, you know, by the time the fight's over or something like that. But he's there to get hit. He gives and takes the whole way. A fresh challenge, by the way, for that guy in the co-main event.
Merab Dvalishvili's coach, John Wood, frames the matchup as proven experience versus a dangerous young finisher. He says Pantoja has reached the point where you simply don't bet against him unless he finally shows he's slipping. Wood praises Pantoja's coaching, his team, and his history of surviving adversity and still finding finishes, calling him a legend at this stage. He respects Van's talent, but feels the title shot may have come a bit early, even though it's the kind of opportunity no fighter should ever turn down.
I mean, we're talking about experience, you know, versus, you know, a young just killer with knockout power. I think Pantoja has earned the right where, you know, there's guys at certain points in time where you just don't bet against them, you know, until they see that fail, you know. And for me, I'm not a guy that's going to bet against Pantoja. I think he's a well-coached guy. He has a great, you know, comes from a great team. He's proven time and time before, even when he's, you know, had some adversity in fights, he comes back, he knows how to finish. The guy's a legend at this point in time. So for me, I think Van's a great fighter. It might be a little too soon. It might not be. But, you know, obviously when that opportunity comes, you don't pass it up. You never say no to any UFC fight. But a title fight for sure is not one.
John Wood says he's sticking with Pantoja because of the champion's experience, grit, and the sheer number of high-level battles he's already been through. At this point, he sees Pantoja as someone you simply don't pick against. Wood acknowledges that Van has real knockout power and is walking into the biggest moment of his career, but notes that kind of pressure can overwhelm a young fighter. While he's siding with Pantoja, he admits that with a puncher like Van, the outcome is never completely predictable.
You know, I would stick with Pantoja on this one, just from experience, just from toughness, just from, you know, being around the block so many times. He's just a guy that, you know, again, I just don't bet against anymore. He's one of those guys. And Van obviously has the KO power, and this is the biggest fight he'll ever have in his life right now. So we'll see. You know, sometimes that pressure can be a little much when it's early in the career. So I have to go with Pantoja, but really, you know, when you got a guy who can drop bombs like that, it's always a toss-up.
MMA Guru also shares his thoughts on Joshua Van, admitting he's a big fan, but noting Van's size could be an issue. While Van might have a stand-up edge, it's not as big as some expect. Pantoja, though shorter than many flyweights, isn't undersized for the division and should hold his own in striking exchanges.
I really like Joshua Van. I'm a fan of Joshua Van, a big-time fan of Joshua Van, man. But he's a little bit too small, and I think that's going to be everything. Pantoja, and he's a striker. Listen, Joshua Van is going to have a stand-up advantage over Pantoja, but not in a way that people are talking about. A lot of people are discussing this as if Joshua Van is just going to piece up Pantoja on the feet easily. I think Pantoja's going to be, you know, he's not that big compared to Van. He's actually quite short himself for the division. Most flyweights are 5'7", 5'8" these days. These guys are 5'5". But Pantoja's bigger than that, I feel like. He's not as small. you know?
MMA Guru picks Pantoja to win. He notes that Joshua Van's striking works well moving forward, and his pull counter style has been effective against fighters like Ray Torreya and Brandon Royval. However, if Van starts leaning back too much, Pantoja can immediately capitalize with a double leg takedown.
So I'm going to go with Pantoja. I'm going to go with Pantoja here. I think Joshua Van, the way that he strikes, a lot of it is like, he does good work moving forwards, and he showed good takedown defense against Ray Tasuria, who's not the best himself, but, you know, he is a bit of a grappler. But sometimes when Joshua Van strikes, he throws shots, and he does a lot of, like, pull counters as a shorter guy with a shorter reach, which works on a lot of opponents. It does, and he does do it well when he lands a shot, dips out of the way, lands the counter. Same thing against Brandon Royval, lands the shot, dips out of the way, lands the counter. It's almost put into his routine. It's in his system. It's in his DNA as a fighter to do those things. And if he starts leaning backwards a bit, Pantoja's driving a double leg underneath him immediately.
Similarly, Anthony Hernandez's coach, Jim West, says he'd like to see a changing of the guard and is openly rooting for Joshua Van. He calls Van one of the sharpest boxers in the division and believes he has the tools to outstrike Pantoja. West notes that the fight may hinge on how much grappling Pantoja brings into the mix, or whether Van gets drawn into a firefight that favors him. If it turns into that kind of crowd-pleasing stand-up battle, he expects Van to take it, and take it in a big way.
I just want to see a change in the guard. Not that I have anything against Pantoja. I'd like to see Joshua Van win. The guy's a fantastic boxer. I think he's one of the better ones in boxing. I think he wins. I think he wins. I think he can outbox Pantoja. I think it could come down to those, you know, if Pantoja starts to mix in his grappling and how well Pantoja mixes in his grappling, or if he gets sucked into that kind of that crowd pleaser. And if he gets sucked into the crowd pleaser, I think Van wins, and I think he wins dramatically.
In contrast, Valter Walker thinks Pantoja operates on a completely different plane compared to most fighters. He explains that in MMA, a few athletes break past the usual ceiling and move into another dimension of skill and mentality. In his view, Pantoja is in that rare category right now, alongside names like John Jones and Alex Pereira. Walker adds that his own dream is to one day reach that same tier of greatness.
100%, bro. Pantoja is match this guy. Pantoja is Semi Merabi. You know, MMA have level. You know, some guys, bro, they just cross the level and they go to another level, bro. They go to another dimension. And right now, I think like Pantoja, Merabi, these guys going another level. Like same like John Jones, like Alex Pereira. These guys are the legends right now. You know, like these guys are another level. Like, my dream is become a fighter like these guys, like on this level.
Moreover, Brandon Royval says the matchup can be viewed from a bunch of angles. If he leans toward Joshua Van, he sees Van pulling ahead in the later rounds with his pace, conditioning, and smart body work, something Royval admits he didn't use enough when he fought Pantoja. But he also points out that Pantoja has that cannibal nickname for a reason, because he absorbs damage and keeps coming. In Royval's view, the most realistic outcome is Pantoja finding a way to get it done.
I mean, you could just dissect it a bunch of ways. It's like, if I think Joshua Van wins it, I would say probably a couple of the later rounds, and then he could steal it with his cardio, high pace, and you know, I think Joshua Van mixes up body shots really nicely, and that's something I never really tried against Pantoja. I was just trying to nail him in the face, and I think Pantoja, they don't call him, he got that cannibal nickname for a reason, man. That guy can just take an ass whooping for sure too. So but I mean, I think probably the more likely of outcomes is Pantoja goes and gets it done.
So that's all we have from today's video, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Share your thoughts about this UFC fight card in the comments section, and subscribe to our channel to get more updates about UFC.